Hello everybody and good evening. I'm going to go over a contracts essay as requested on my Facebook. I have chosen question 3. It is a prior first year law students exam question. I posted it on Facebook earlier today so everybody could go ahead and take a look at it, begin outlining it, and start preparing for the FYLSE. What I really want to do here is I kind of want to go over just a basic with everybody on how I do my essays, how I approach my essays, and what I feel is the fastest way and the most effective way to ensure that you hit all of your points. I'm not going to go through the fact pattern with you. I'm not really going to go through 1, 2, and 3. I'm really only going to hit on 1. That way we can go through just a basic outline. I will go through 1, 2, and 3 further in another video, but just so everybody doesn't have to sit here for 30 minutes listening to me, I'm just going to go over this really basically. So we're always told, go to the call of the question, the first thing you do. Here we've got clearly breach of contract. We know we're in contracts. Can Ben prevail in a breach of contract action against writs? Discuss. So what I often find is that I have seen people waste a lot of time on these essays, especially on the first year law students exam, when they read this, they read their calls of the question, and then they go through all the different calls, 1, 2, and 3. They go through and then they start writing. And oftentimes what you'll have is you'll have somebody who will start with 1. Can Ben prevail in a breach of contract action against writs? And then what they'll do is they start thinking in their head, okay, how do I do this? All right, well, let's do the definition of let's put the rule statement for contract. So then they start putting the rule statement for contract, and they'll start with a promise or set of promises to which the breach of the law gives remedy. And then they'll say, okay, so I've got my what do I do now? Now I have to do the governing law, or the ruling law, or however you want to put it. This is where I've got to discuss the UCC, and then you start typing, the UCC governs contracts for the sale of goods, and common law governs contracts for the sale for services, for services. And then you go into your analysis, but what I find when you do it like this, you forget a lot of very important pieces. And not only that, but you lose track of time, and I've always found that creating and then doing more of a plug and play for me works best. So generally what I do is, instead of going through all of that, once I get to this point, I pretty much copy these, come down here to number 2 and number 3, and I do, is it effective? And I do that. And then there's my third question. Can credit code prevail? So I've got my 1, 2, and 3. Then what I do is I come in here and I know that I have these parts of this outline that I have learned and I've beaten in my head over contracts. Formation, right? We have to have formation, right? Performance. I'm spelling things horribly. Breach. Damages, right? So we have formation, performance, breach, and damages. So what else do I know? Well, I also know that under formation, I have to have offer, I have to have acceptance, and I have to have consideration. And then I know that I also have defenses to formation. And if you're somebody that often forgets the statute of frauds, or you always find yourself putting the statute of frauds in the wrong place, I would come in here and I would just write statute of frauds. That way you don't have to worry that you're missing anything. So because what we're looking at right here is, can he prevail in a breach of contract action, we first need to identify that there was a contract. So that's where we're going to be heavy right here on our formation, offer, acceptance, consideration, defenses. So this is how I set it up. Now, so now what I do is, so now I know that there's a few things I've got to cover right here before I get into my formation. I have to do my rule statement for contract, which is, a promise or set of promises. I do that. What's the other thing I have to do? Well, underneath this, I have to give the governing rule. And this is where I'll discuss the UCC or common law. And you know what else? Because I've already written this essay 6 times trying to make sure I'm explaining it correctly. Under this, I know I also have to discover merchant, and I have to discover what the rule statement is for a merchant. Person who holds themselves out or who deals in goods of a kind. Then I know I can go into formation. And I know that in formation I'm going to write my rule statement here about mutual assent. And then in here I know that I'm going to want to, do my rule statement for an offer. I know that because I'm working with what is going to be for the sale of goods, and the sale of goods is clearly governed by who? Everybody think we should have this right off the top of our head. There you go, the UCC. So I know that under offer, I know under acceptance, because we are dealing with UCC, that we're going to have different rules. So I put this here before I really start digging into it. That way I know these are the things I have to discuss. I also know that specifically for this, in this essay, you're not going to discuss statute of frauds. So by the time you get down here, you can just take it out. You can just essentially erase it, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you have it here, then you know that if it is in the fact pattern, that you don't want to forget that. And that's the biggest part, is not forgetting discussable issues. So, just to show you guys, this is what we covered right here. It's just the basic, how I make sure I don't miss anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over here to this. And what you'll see here is, this is what it looks like. So, like I showed you in the last screen, I just copy and pasted the call of the question. Right here, I went through and I described contract. But what you'll notice is that I outlined it like I told you guys. I did my controlling law. I did my special merchant rule. I did my formation. Under formation, I had my offer. I always do is the offer still open. As you can see, I crossed it out because I didn't need to discuss it, so that wouldn't be on there when I was writing this for real. And then I did consideration. And then I did defense to formation. And then I did statute of frauds. And I came down here and I discussed third-party beneficiaries. And then I did defenses to formation. And that way, like right here, these weren't discussable. I just delete them. But I do know that they're in here, and I am making sure that I am following the formatting so I'm not missing anything. And I think that's the biggest problem, is oftentimes we will forget to put something in here. So if we can just get it in our heads, that checklist, that outline that we got in class, the thing that we were taught that I can't tell you how many times I heard beat into my head. We've got formation, performance, breach, damages, over and over and over. We know what's under formation. We have our UCC common law, our special merchants rule, our formation, our offers, the offer still open, acceptance, consideration, defenses to formation. Under those defenses, we have statute of frauds. We have misrepresentation. We have fraud in the inducement. We have impossibility, impracticability, mistake, mutual mistake. But if you don't outline it and you just start writing, you're going to miss things. And the essays on the FYLSE, if this is your first time taking it, I don't know if it was just me, but I stopped in my tracks, and it was almost like I went blank. And I don't know if it was from the nerves trying to get my computer and that crazy software they have to work, or if I just wasn't prepared. If you're going in a second time, you know what you're going to expect, and you are going to run that essay. But for me, if I would not have done it exactly like this, I think what I would have found is I would have missed a lot of things. So, in our next video, I will go over with everybody the rest of the calls on this question. I will also post this for you so you guys can go ahead and take a look at what I've done and what it says. And, you know, one thing that I keep saying over and over is, yeah, memorize your rule statements. You have to memorize your rule statements. But you also have to know where those rule statements go, and you have to know the elements in them, and you have to know how they fit. So instead of sitting with flashcards and memorizing these rule statements like you're doing a spelling bee, memorize these rule statements by writing them into the essay. By writing them into the essay, you're not only memorizing them, but you're understanding where they fit. You know, everybody can go ahead and do offer, an outward manifestation of present contractual intent requiring definite and certain terms which are communicated to the offeree. But unless you understand the difference in the offer you're discussing in this fact pattern, and whether that offer is a UCC offer or a common law offer, and the difference between UCC and the difference that's required in common law, then you'll have that statement. But what you'll miss is, this part. Under the UCC, the only term required is quantity. So you'll go ahead and just put your rule statement down for your offer. You'll know that's an offer and move on. If you don't have your outline here to guide you, you're going to miss a lot of things. So, in my opinion, this is the best way to do it. That being said, you know what they say about opinions. I hope you guys have a great night, and let me know if this helped out. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to cover, and I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow.